Alright, to give a quick breakdown of the hardware and software I will be using for this video, the CPU I am using is a Xeon 1660 V3 overclocked to 4.5 gigahertz, and the reason why you'd be watching this video most likely is to see the GTX 980 Ti. I will leave a link to the hardware and software I will be using in the video description below. And the driver version I am using is 58180. With that being said, let's get started with the video. Marvel Rivals at 1080p on the low preset with FSR quality got on average 97 FPS with a 1% low of 43. Cyberpunk 2077 at 1080p on the medium preset scored on average 66 FPS with a minimum of 53. Fortnite on performance mode at 1080p on the low preset got on average 251 FPS with a 1% low of 126. Apex Legends at 1080p on the maximum settings that I could put it on got on average 144 FPS with a 1% low of 83. Warframe at 1080p on the high preset got on average 95 FPS with a 1% low of 24. Splitgate Arena Reloaded at native TAA with no upscaling, no frame gen at 1080p on the medium preset got on average 114 FPS with a 1% low of 41. Wuthering Waves at 1080p with the quality preset got on average 60 FPS with a 1% low of 32. Mecha Break at 1080p on the low preset with FSR balanced got on average 97 FPS with a 1% low of 59. Predecessor at 1080p on the medium preset got on average 127 FPS with a 1% low of 41. One thing to note here is in team fights it did drop down into around the 90s. The first descendant at 1080p with the low preset got on average 84 with a 1% low of 59. Tainted Grail at 1080p on the high preset got on average 58 FPS with a 1% low of 4. I did get a couple of big stutters in this game, but it did seem to stabilize itself as I continued to run through the game. It only really happened maybe around the first 10 to 15 minutes in, and then after that it kind of just worked itself out. Stellar Blade at 1080p on the very high preset got on average 55 with a 1% low of 20. Expedition 33 on 1440p low preset with TSR at 50% got on average 64 with a 1% low of 47. Space Marine 2 at 1080p on the low preset with FSR balanced got on average 47 with a 1% low of 41. GTA 5 Enhanced Edition at 1080p on the high preset got on average 117 FPS with a 1% low of 67. Oblivion Remaster at 1080p on the medium preset got on average 38 with a 1% low of 1. I actually did try lossless scaling on this game, and it did improve it significantly. What it shows on the FPS counter is 120 FPS. I can at least say that lossless scaling did improve the gameplay experience for me when I did try Oblivion Remastered on this card. So something to keep in mind. This might be worth the around $7 to $8 to get lossless scaling. Alright, conclusions. Is the 980 Ti worth getting in 2026? Probably not for anything AAA related, but if you just want to play indie or free-to-play games, it could be viable depending on the price. Now, I would not spend any more between 40 to 60 bucks maximum for something like this. If you want to play anything like AAA related kind of games, it will struggle, and with the end of driver support for this card, wouldn't be worthwhile. Where I really think this card would shine is more as just a temporary placeholder card, where you're already planning on upgrading to something better, but you just need something to get you by until then. That might make this card viable at least for, I don't know, a couple months, maybe a year, depending on what kind of games you want to play. There are some better options though really out there. If you can get like a 1070 or a Vega 5664, those would be better options, and they're around similar prices to this card. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you've disliked it, give it a thumbs down. If you'd like to see more content like this, consider subscribing. Thank you and have a great day.